For our video, we decided to do what the effect of money was to Fitzgerald. In The Great Gatsby, Fitzgerald demonstrates the deteriorating impact the pursuit of monetary security has on traditional American societal morals and values. In the novel The Great Gatsby, which would take place during the Roaring Twenties, F. Scott Fitzgerald would make serious statements about how money would affect character behavior during that time. So now we will start with a background on some of the characters. For Nick, quotes on the book that describe his background are, "My family has been prominent, well-to-do people in this middle western city for 3 generations. Everybody I knew was in the bond business, so I suppose he could support one more single man." In this novel, Fitzgerald will make Nick a metaphor for the middle class. And living next to Gatsby and being related to Daisy, Nick is very close to being part of the very high social class, but because he lives in a small cottage, he clearly isn't. So next we'll talk about Gatsby. It was James Gads who had been loafing along the beach that afternoon in a Tom Green, a jersey, and a pair of Calvin's pants, but it was already James Gatsby who borrowed a rowboat, pulled out to the Tomelee, and informed Cody that a wind might catch him and break him up in half an hour. I suppose he'd had the name ready for a long time. Even then, his parents were shiftless and unsuccessful farm people. His imagination had never really accepted them as his parents at all. Gatsby will be one of the most mysterious characters in the novel. He will host enormous parties, but he would almost never be seen at them. This would raise the constant question of who he is and why is he throwing these parties and how he got his wealth. Throughout the various stories, it would be known that he inherited his money from an old friend of his, Dan Cody, when he died. The answer would eventually come out that he was throwing these parties in hope that Daisy Buchanan would show up. The green light at the end of her dock would symbolize his American dream of the life he wants to have with her. Next, we will talk about Daisy. Quotes describing Daisy in the novel. "Her voice is full of money," he said suddenly. "That was it. I'd never understood it before. It was full of money." Next, it seemed to me that the thing for Daisy to do was to rush out of the house, child in arms, but apparently there were no such intentions in her head. Daisy throughout the novel will serve as the typical wife to a very rich man that lives a leisurely lifestyle lacking excitement. She seems to be aware that her husband Tom is cheating on her, and she doesn't choose to do anything about it because of the very high social class that her and Tom belong to. She will use her social class to her advantage in any way possible throughout the novel. Next, we will talk about Tom. A quote describing Tom in the novel. "His family were enormously wealthy. Even in college, his freedom with money was a matter for reproach, but now he'd left Chicago and come east in a fashion that rather took your breath away. For instance, he'd brought down a string of polo ponies from Lake Forest. It was hard to realize that a man in my own generation was wealthy enough to do that." In the novel, Tom will play a symbol of a man who has as much money as one would ever want and will abuse the power it comes with. He will cheat on his wife, Daisy, whom he provides for very well, for no other reason than pure excitement. He will also be incredibly prideful to the point where he would take major offense to being referred to as the polo player at Gatsby's party, and will try to harm Gatsby's reputation by trying to convince Daisy that Gatsby made his money illegally. Fitzgerald had 3 categories of money for people: those who were not secure, those who were sort of secure, and those who were secure. Quotes like these. "What do you want the money for all of a sudden?" Tom said. "I've been here too long. I want to go away. My wife and I want to go west," said George. George and Myrtle would both live in the Valley of Ashes, and it was a place they wanted to get desperately out of. Due to a lack of money, these people were easily taken advantage of by those who did. This would be shown by Tom having an affair with Myrtle behind George's back because he could pay for it, and Daisy getting away with hitting Myrtle and not stopping. The social class would be symbolized by the color gray. Gray is a rather depressing color, representing the ash or waste coming from a burning fire. In the novel, Fitzgerald would symbolize the sort of secure class by Nick and Gatsby. Nick has moved out from the Midwest searching for money. He has joined the bond business, which in 1922 was booming, and almost everyone that entered the business was making it rich. Gatsby, on the other hand, was not looking for more wealth in his life. He had already inherited all the money he would need in his life, but would still be a member of the pursuing in life. He would spend the entire novel desperately trying to reunite his relationship with Daisy. He had bought his giant house just to be near her and thrown parties specifically just to get her attention. The color that would symbolize this section of people was yellow, because although close to being gold, it was not gold. In the novel, Fitzgerald would symbolize the secure class by those from East Egg or individually as Tom and Daisy. They would have all the money they ever needed and held an incredible amount of social power. He would also send a message that any one person having too much money or power was a bad thing, because they could use it very abusively. For example, Tom would be able to get away with his affair he was having with Myrtle in the city, and Daisy would be able to get away with hitting and killing Myrtle, while Gatsby would pay for trying to cover for her with his life. Gatsby believed in the green light, the organist future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms farther, and one fine morning, so we beat on, boats against the currents, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Thank you all for watching our video.